The 5-Minute Photographer with Shelton Muller.
To say that digital photography has changed our world would be an understatement. For photographers, its introduction into the way we take pictures has made so many things possible for us in the 21st century. However, it has also brought about with it new ways of thinking that have become perhaps a bad or disadvantageous thing for newcomers to the art. And one of these is that all images are to be completed using a computer to some degree. And this simply is not true. For experienced film photographers, years of capturing our images using film have taught us the value of creating the image to the degree possible while on location, using the camera, making it happen with the scene right in front of us. And this not only ensures that we have the image, but in the digital age is also a great way for photographers to improve their craft right there, right then. This is the idea of creating the image in the camera. And this is often where filters come in. Using filters to create your image in the camera not only teaches you the craft of photography and the techniques required, but also saves time unnecessarily spent in the computer. In this way, you learn the advantages and the very valuable techniques behind creating the image in the camera while on location. Don't underestimate that lesson. It's a valuable one. This isn't to say that we can't use software, but let's just say that more can be done in the camera first. Let's look at some filters every photographer should at least consider. Filters which continue to matter even in the digital age. Graduated filters. Graduated filters come in a range of colors, but without doubt they are among the landscape photographer's closest friends, allowing detail to be captured in both the bright and the shadowed areas within the frame, all in the same picture. Bright skies and dark foregrounds often plague the landscape photographer because he photographs in the early morning or the late afternoon. And this can be balanced out exposure-wise in the camera. There's no need to always have to resort to HDR or other kinds of techniques in the computer for this kind of repair. For example, with this scene in the Canadian Rocky Mountains, it would not have been possible in one frame without a graduated filter. By simply adding a gray graduated filter, or perhaps more expensively a neutral density graduated filter, you're able to balance the exposure difference between the shadowed foreground and the sunlit mountain peak in the background. This situation is exactly the same, hindered by the fact that film and digital simply can't handle the difference between bright highlights and dark shadowed foregrounds like the human eye can. But by simply adding a gray graduated filter, you can get the picture in the camera. Another close friend to the landscape and travel photographer particularly is the polarizing filter. Polarizing filters remove reflections, which saturates colors and often defines a lot of elements within the frame. Using a polarizer to enhance seascapes and landscapes and saturate skies is a technique that photographers have been using for decades. The polarizing filter is just as valuable today in the digital era as it ever was. While we're on the subject of landscape photography, let's not forget neutral density filters. These colorless dark filters allow less light to the film or to the sensor, meaning that even in bright conditions, slow shutter speeds can be used without having to stop down to the smallest aperture. Now, this not only prevents lens diffraction, which degrades the quality of the image and has become more of a problem in the digital age, but it also allows the photographer to minimize depth of field if he needs to. When we talk about creating the image in camera, there are other filters to consider also. For instance, the humble cross-screen filter is certainly in that league. Its ability to make a point of light more meaningful in the frame is unique, and it's an ideal tool particularly for wedding photographers. Another filter range worthy of mention are diffusion filters. And sure, diffusion is possible using software, but diffusion filters have the advantage of softening mainly the highlights in the image and not muddying the midtones and the shadows simultaneously. What you use from here on in is up to you, of course, but the principle behind using filters is and always has been to create the image in camera to the degree possible, saving time and teaching you the principles behind photography that matter when you are actually out shooting. I'm Shelton Muller, and this has been another episode of The 5-Minute Photographer.